Hello and welcome to another episode of Develop with WP, a show where I try to teach you more about WordPress development. Today we're actually going to get back to some WordPress stuff. Over the past couple of videos I've really just been diving into PHP specific things and just some more general topics. But today we're really going to get back into WordPress development and I'm sure a lot of you are probably happy to hear that. So today we're going to start a series, I hope to be 2 to 3 videos, where we're going to talk about the media uploader. So what is this thing that I'm talking about? Well, if you're not real sure, what it is it's like the set featured image, so this media modal pop-up. What we're going to do is I'm going to show you how to create a custom one of these that's not this one. So like if you wanted to have a button that allows you to pop up and upload videos from the media library, and you can have it anywhere. All right, so that's kind of what we're going to cover today over the next couple of videos, is how to create a custom uploader, how to customize the uploader, and all that kind of stuff. So let's get started. I want to show you the code. What I've done is I've actually created this as a plugin, not really because it needs to be a plugin or it should be a plugin. It's merely just a way for me to do this. This could easily be something that you could build in your functions.php for your theme, or you could build it as a plugin as well. It really doesn't matter. This is just the choice I made. And so as you can see, just to kind of give you a lay of the land as far as what I have here so far, I have this plugin folder called image upload. It has a JavaScript file, which is empty. And it has this image upload file, which again just says that it's a plugin. I am using namespaces. Just kind of ignore that if you're not used to namespaces. It's not really pertinent to this talk. And then what am I doing? I've got 3 functions here. One is I'm creating a meta box. All right, so that's what I'm doing here, add meta box, and I'm hooking in and telling WordPress about that meta box. I am registering the script, so simply all I've done is told WordPress that this JavaScript file exists. So I've enqueued that script. And then lastly, because I created a meta box, it has a callback function, which I have to have. And so I've created that callback function right here. And right now, all it does is echo out, I'm the upload meta box. So I kind of went through that pretty quickly, but rest assured, in the plugin series that I built, I talk about all of this stuff, creating meta boxes and registering scripts. So there's nothing really new here if you've seen any of my other videos. But I felt like this was a great baseline place to start. And if we look in here, when you go to add a new page or a post, whatever, you'll see that this image upload meta box is here, and it says I am the image upload meta box. So that's where we're going to start off. I think the first thing we should do is we should build out some stuff in the meta box. So there's a couple of things we're going to want to have in our meta box just off the start. So one of the things I know we're going to need is some HTML. So I'm going to go ahead and open and close PHP so that we can just do some regular HTML inside of here. I'm going to create a div, and I'm going to give it an ID of metabox wrapper. You can call it whatever you want. And then I'm going to create an image tag, and this image tag is actually not going to have a source or an alt at this point. It's simply just going to have an ID, and we're going to call it image tag. Again, call it what you want. All right, and so this image tag is actually going to hold the image that we select from the media uploader. So this is going to come later, but right now it's just kind of like a holding. It's not going to display, it's not going to show anything, but eventually we're going to populate this image with the actual image we select from the uploader. So that's one of the things we need. The other things that we're going to need for this is we're going to need 3 more things. We're going to need a hidden field. The hidden field is going to be used for us to take some information about the selected image and pass that off to WordPress to get saved into the database later. So it's just kind of like a way to take the interactions that we have with the media uploader and save them to the database. The other 2 things we need are buttons. We need an add button and a delete button. So we need a button for adding images and a button for deleting images if we want to remove an already selected image. So I'm going to create 3 inputs right here for all those items. And I'm not going to worry about it right now, but you should probably localize and make these translatable, but I'm not going to worry with it right this moment. Okay, let's go see what that looks like. All right, cool. So now you can see that we have our buttons, and if we inspect this area, you'll see that we have our image tag, which doesn't do anything right now, and our hidden field, which also doesn't do anything right now, but it is there. So that's what we've built out. We've built out the bones of this meta box. All right, so let's get started on the JavaScript side of things. The first things I'm going to do is just something I commonly do all the time, and that's cache all of the DOM elements. And so what I mean by that is that we're going to be utilizing and referencing all these buttons, these hidden fields, all these elements are going to get referenced in our JavaScript. And so one of the things I like to do is just go ahead and fetch and store those items in variables so that I can just have them readily available. So I'm going to create a couple of variables. The first one's the add button. I want to capture the add button. And the add button, we're going to get all these by ID, so that's this right here. All right, and I'm going to copy this a few times because we're just going to change a few parts. This one's going to be called the delete button. This one is the image field. What do we call that? Image tag. And then the hidden field. Hidden field. All right, so all we've done is cache those 4 objects we had made, or elements we had made. The next part is kind of the uploader part. So here we're going to create a new instance of the media uploader object. So the media uploader is an object in JavaScript. It has a couple of different properties and parameters just like any other object. And we're going to set a few of those parameters when we create it. So the way that we're going to do that is we're going to go new variable. We're going to call it custom uploader. You could call it whatever you want it to be. And it's going to be equal to the wp.media object. And in here, we're going to specify a couple of parameters. There's a lot of parameters you can set, but we're just going to focus on like the 3 basic ones. So the first thing we're going to set is the title property for this object. And we're going to say select an image. Then there's a button object, and we're going to set the text of that button object to be use this image. It could be whatever you want it to be. And then the last part is we're going to set multiple. So multiple, if I can spell multiple. Multiple is an attribute that tells this media uploader we're creating whether or not you should be able to select multiple images, as in a gallery, or just an individual image only. So the way we're building this out is just to be able to select one image. So I'm going to set this to false so that they can't just create galleries with this particular button. But you could set this to true, and you could rework some of the other stuff we're going to do later to make it do galleries. It's really up to you. All right, so we've got our custom uploader created. We've made a new instance of it. We have all of our elements cached. It's time to actually do something. So the first thing we want to do is we want you to be able to click on this add button and it trigger the pop-up modal to open. So let's go ahead and do that. We're going to go add button because that's so this add button, we've cached it in JavaScript under this add button variable. So anytime we want to reference this button now, we just call add button. And we're going to create an event. So we're going to go add event listener. And we're going to look for the click event, and then we're just going to run a function. I'm just going to do an anonymous function. And inside of this function, we're going to do some stuff. Really all we're going to do is check to see if the custom uploader exists. So we're going to make sure that, does this exist, and if so, we're going to open it. So we're going to go if custom uploader, then we're going to call, if it does exist, then we're going to call custom uploader dot open, which is just a method on this that comes built for us. All right, so let's save this. Let's refresh. See if we have any errors. Looks good. Now let's click it. Boom! We have an uploader, and we can select an image. So now you'll see that when we hit the button, it doesn't do anything. So we're just partly there. That's the first step. The first step is getting the media modal to open. You'll see that remove image still doesn't do anything because we haven't registered anything with that. All right, so let's do the next step. So we have the uploader opening. Now we need to capture. We need to capture this event when we hit this use this image button. We need to capture that. And again, the custom uploader object in WordPress comes with a property called state, and so we're able to capture that that event and use a state method to capture some stuff. So let's see what that looks like. We're going to call custom uploader, and we're going to do a jQuery event here. I messed around with this for a little bit, but for some reason, because this is like a jQuery specific object, it became a bit unruly to manipulate with just regular JavaScript. So for this one part, I believe this is the only part, but for this part, we're actually going to use jQuery to make this happen. And it is worth noting that when I registered this script right here, I set jQuery and the media uploader as dependencies for this file we're working on. So we're going to look for the select event. And we're going to go function. And inside of this function, we're going to create a new variable called var attachment. So what we're doing here is we want to get all the information about the attachment that we've selected. And there's if you go look at the codex, this line is verbatim from the codex, so I take no credit for it. But really, what it's going to do is it's going to get all the information about the image that was selected and give it to us in a JSON format. And so it looks like this: custom uploader.state. This is that property or method I was talking about. .get selection .first .to JSON. All right, cool. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go var test equals 0, and we're going to check this out. I want you to actually kind of see this in action. So let me refresh. Everything looks good still. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go to my sources tab. So this is, again, not a tutorial series, but in Chrome, if you go to sources, you can actually look through like WP contents to the plugins, and this is my plugin, and I can actually look at this JavaScript file, so you can see the code that I've wrote. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to set a breakpoint here, and what this is going to allow us to do is actually look at this attachments variable in real time. So let's check that out. I select it, boom, it fires, it saves. So like you can see the browser is paused right now, and we can actually go over here. Let me get rid of this. And we can look at attachment, and we can see that it has the author for it. It has the height of the image's ID, the link, a bunch of stuff. Really, the only two things we're worried about is the ID and then the URL. So this URL right here is the actual URL to the image, and that's what we want, right? We want this URL. So that's what we're going to target, but I just wanted to pause this and show you that this attachments variable at this point in time has all the information we need to know about the image, and we've gotten that through this whole catching the state and getting the selected item and turning it into a JSON format. So that's what we got going on here. Okay, so now that we have that information, we want to do some stuff with it. So the first thing we're going to do is that image that we made that's in our meta box that's not doing anything, we're going to do set attribute on that, and we're going to set the source attribute of that image, which doesn't even exist at this point, to attachment dot URL, right? So we're going to take that attachment URL and pass it into the source attribute, and what that's going to do is it's going to make this image actually appear in the admin. The other thing we're going to do is our hidden input field. Again, we want to save this information. If we didn't have the hidden input field and we didn't pass this information to it, when it came time to save the post, the information about this image would be lost, and when it refreshed, the image would be gone. So we need to update the value field of the hidden input, which is a common practice, to save some of this data so that we can save it later. So I'm going to go hidden. So I'm going to target that hidden variable up here that we've cached. And I'm going to do set attribute on it. The only difference is we're setting the value attribute of this HTML element. And we're going to set it to an object, but we're going to store it as an array. And we kind of need to JSON format this code as well, so that when it comes time, and you'll see this later, when it comes time to save it, it'll be in a format that we can work with in PHP. So I'm going to call JSON.stringify. And then I'm going to create an array, and inside of that array I'm going to create a new object, and this object is going to have a property of ID, which is going to equal attachment ID, which is one of the things we saw when we viewed this, and the URL property is going to be the attachment URL. All right. So it looks like a lot here, but really we're just setting an attribute. We're setting the value attribute to a JSON array with one object, and that object has two properties, an ID and a URL. And this will become important later. So let me save that. Let me go back over here and refresh. Let me get rid of my breakpoint so it'll actually work. I'll close this for a minute. Add image, select image, insert. All right, awesome. So you see our image has popped up. It's not to the right size at all, but we're going to fix that. I think for now we'll just fix it in here. So the other thing we're going to do to this image at this moment when we select it is we're going to go set attribute as well. Oops. And the attribute we're going to set is the style attribute, and we're going to make that width 100%. All right, so let's refresh, add an image, select that image. There you go. So now you can see it fits in here. And you could style this to be however you want. One of the cool things about setting it to width 100 is that if it ends up over here, you know, it just resizes to work for that, which I think is kind of nice. All right, so that's that. Actually, I might leave it over here. It might make it easier for everybody to see it. So that's good. The next thing we want to take care of is removing. So we can't get rid of this image. It just sits there forever. So let's create an event that's going to work with this delete button. So again, we're going to go delete button dot add event listener, and the event listener again is going to be click event. Function. And in this event, we're not doing as much. Really what we want to do is go image dot remove attribute. The source, right? We don't need that source. We want this image to disappear again. So we're just going to, oh, this only takes one parameter. So we're going to remove the source attribute, and then again the hidden field, we're going to remove the stuff in it. Value. And I still need to show you that hidden field as well. And then I'm going to remove this image style for now. We're going to do this in a much cleaner way later. But if I don't get rid of this, it'll have a weird little bug. All right, so all we're doing simply in the delete is pretty much the exact opposite of what we did here. Instead of setting all those attributes, we're just removing them again so that we no longer have an image. So let's refresh. We'll add an image. Okay, and then we'll remove an image and it goes away. Let me add it again and show you this hidden input field really quick. If I inspect this element, you can see the input type hidden, and you can see in here we have an array with an object with an ID of 32 and a URL of the actual URL. So I wanted to show you that value information, and of course if we remove it, then it removes all that information as well, and so does the image stuff get removed. So it's really cool. Yeah, I think that's a pretty good spot to maybe stop for this video. To this point, what we've done is got a fully functioning thing going on here, but still, if I were to go test and publish, WordPress has no clue what to do with this, so it just disappears. So the next video, what we're going to do is we're going to take care of saving this information. So again, I hope this was informative. I hope you liked it. Please stay tuned for the other video. I'll actually make sure to have the code, the complete code for this whole thing in the description of this video. So as you're building and following along, it'll make it easier for you to figure out any errors or issues you may have. But yeah, check out the next video. Share, like, tweet, subscribe, say hi, leave me a comment, whatever. I'd really like to hear from you. But again, thanks for watching and have a great WordPress day. Crank it up.